that big of a difference. But sometimes she tells my daughters that she loves them, which is interesting because she doesn't know who they are either. But at any rate, but she's always like sweet and giggling, and she reads all the time, even though she can't remember like a sentence after she finishes reading it. But it brought to mind this awareness that I have, um, that I've had for many, many years, that I would call the awareness of nothing. And the way I can describe it is once, I don't even remember when because it's been so long, I tried to imagine nothing. And because people kept saying, "Oh, what you doing? Nothing." And like that. So I said, "Oh, I wonder how you could imagine nothing." So I tried to imagine nothing. And this statement occurred in my consciousness that said, "Nothing is never what you think it is." And for some reason, that blew my mind. Maybe it's not as mind blowing to other people, but it blew my mind. This idea that nothing was never what I thought it was, because then it made me try to get to a place where I was not thinking and that I was just in stillness. And then that I just was like, just not thinking, but being. And I started telling people stuff like that. And they said, "Man, you sound crazy." And that's fine. But on my journey, my life journey, I started to discover over years that there were people who understood these philosophies. And in China, there's this concept called Wu Wei, which is the doing that comes from non-doing. And I tell you, with no lies being told, that I legitimately used to sit still and try to get to a point where I didn't think anything and I was not aware of any thoughts. And then I would just get up and do something. And then I just was doing it for no real reason except for curiosity about how my mind worked. And as I practiced it more and more and more, I experienced a lot of what some people call miracles. I don't know how else to describe it, but I've had many experiences, some of which are very hard to believe, but have happened from just getting still, dropping all pretense, dropping all sorts of things, and just allowing. But I didn't have language for it. So every time I tried to explain it to people, especially when I was a fundamentalist Christian, they would just be like, "What are you talking about? You sound crazy." Or they would tell me I was saying some Buddhist junk or whatever the case may be. And over time, I found out they were right. I was saying Buddhist junk, but I didn't know that it was, and I'm just joking when I say Buddhist junk, but I did not know that I was doing things that were so-called Buddhist. I didn't know I was doing things that were so-called Course in Miracles. I didn't know I was doing things that are having thoughts that were so-called Christian Science and all these other things. I was just living my life, studying my Bible, trying to understand what the heck the teachings were trying to say, and just having experiences. But wrapped in that was these different thoughts that occurred to me, different things that I witnessed, different things that I experienced. And as I shared in previous videos, and I think it's fundamental to the person that I become, I also did not expect to live as long as I've lived almost 3 times as long as I expected to be alive. I'm 50 now because of my neighborhood, because of getting bullied, because of just so many things that I saw. So because I didn't expect to live long, I also cultivated this uh, tight little window of experience, which now I know people call the now or the eternal now. But back then it was, well, I'm probably going to be dead today. So let me just taste this ice cream and just see how delicious it is. Let me feel the cold water on my skin. I used to do things where when I was putting on my clothes, I wanted to feel every piece of putting my clothes on. So I would put my clothes on really slowly so that I could feel like my sweatshirt going over my body or putting my pants on. And even when I ate, my mom used to say, "Pedro, it's like you in love with your food. Like, why are you staring at your food and like looking at it and looking like you're about to cry?" And it was because I was about to cry, because I used to think almost every meal was going to be my last meal, because I really legitimately believed I was going to die. And so that intimacy with this awareness of death, what I later learned is called this mortality salience. And mortality salience usually freaks most of us out. When we start to realize that we're going to die, we start managing in our mind, which is also called terror management theory. We start building our life around the fear of death and trying to manage that fear. And a lot of times we manage it through distraction, we manage it through meaning making, we manage it through so many different things because we really just don't want to face the fact that we're going to die. And so it dictates almost everything we do, how we treat other people, how we perceive ourselves, and we think of death as a failure. And so even the most successful person feels like they're going to fail, that death is the failure from which you cannot recover. And so when you look at death as the failure from which you can't recover, but everyone's going to die, with that mindset, everyone is going to fail. And so this illusion that comes from the fear of death really traps us so bad, because you see why people like are obsessed with youth. People do things that make themselves look younger all the time because it's all ties back to the fear of death. But if you're not aware of it, it's controlling your life. Whereas as I've said in the past, I used to literally imagine snipers outside of my house waiting to snipe me any moment now. And every step that I took, I was just grateful for that step because I thought I would be eradicated. I'm going to go to the nothingness. Like it's going to be over, and I just lived that way, not knowing it was cultivating these spiritual things that I didn't even know existed until I got older and met people who would ask me questions like, how long have you been practicing this? Or how long have you been practicing that? I practiced growing up in the hood. That's what I practiced. I practiced growing up in the hood and thinking I was going to die and trying to not, as I've said in past videos, trying not to embarrass my grandma at my funeral. That was my core thing. Pay attention before you get taken out and don't embarrass your grandma at your funeral. At your funeral. That's it. And out of those things, I, over time, by staying alive by some miracle, encountered people who taught me about different things. And sometimes I just ran into places, didn't know anything about it, came across books, heard somebody saying something in a sentence that answered a question in my head. And I'd hear somebody answer it talking to somebody else. And I'd be like, what the world is that? All these different things. And all of that emerged from nothing. And so I started to really value this nothingness, so much so that I used to wish that after this life that there was nothing, but that I could just be conscious of it. Once my ex asked me, she said, do you hope she said, do you hope to see we'll be together in heaven? And I was honest. I'll say, man, I'm not gonna lie. Because I don't like lying, right? So I'm not gonna lie. I'd rather not. And she was like, what? She's like, you don't want to be with me in heaven. I said, well, think about it like this. Why can't we just enjoy ourselves on this earth right now? Just be fully present with our experience and see what happens after that. But I didn't want to get caught up in heaven. And she's like, well, why do you want to be in heaven? I said, well, honestly, it's because I'm assuming that there's other people that you would also like in your heaven that I would rather not be around. So then all of a sudden, my heaven is including people that I don't feel like being around on earth, but I'm around them because I'm around you. And then, blah, 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 the ripple effect. Somebody's going to want a McDonald's. Next thing you know, I'm just going to be on a better earth. And I was like, I don't want that. And she was like, well, what do you want? And I said, this is going to sound crazy, but I would like to be able to feel nothingness and just hang out in it and rest in it. Because there's so many things that are just kind of constantly assaulting us in this life, that these messages that tell us we're not enough, which is pretty much the main message that gets pumped out at us all the time. I was like, I want to be free from that eternally. And what people tell me of heaven, it just sounds like a better earth. Like, especially where I grew up, where they talked about getting mansions and crowns with jewels in it. And they weren't joking. They literally believed that when they died, they were going to a place where they were going to get streets of gold, mansions, crowns, everything. Black people, especially back in the day growing up, they wanted heaven to be everything they missed out on earth. And so it was just like an earth upgrade. It was like the best earth ever is what they were looking for in heaven. And that's what a lot of people think about. Honestly, I don't even think about heaven. I got past that a long time ago. But I understand why people would do that, because it kind of balances out a lot of the stress that they feel in this life. And if they're always afraid of death, then they can overcome that fear of death to some degree, thinking, I'm not going to die. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to a better place. And I'm going to have all the stuff that I ever wanted with all the people I ever liked. And we're going to have a great time and da da da. And it kind of psychologically makes this journey somewhat bearable. But what happens is if you focus like on that, you actually miss out on this journey. You actually miss out on the relationships that you have right now. You miss out on the miracle of a plate of food that came from all parts of the world in order to be on your plate, and you don't have the value. A lot of us don't value that moment. We eat it, don't even experience it when we eat it because we're too busy thinking about something else. And there's so much grateful things that happen here that I don't even think about that. And I temper that by being mindful of nothing, of trying to get centered whenever as much as I possibly can. Even when I'm this video I'm making, I'm saying a bunch of words, but a lot of those words are just emerging from nothing. I actually had the idea to make this video yesterday, but I could feel that there was some kind of impulse and some kind of thing that I was trying to influence when if I created the video yesterday. So I wouldn't let myself. I just waited until I didn't feel anything about it. And then when I felt nothing, that's when I allowed myself to make the video. And then the idea that I was speaking of earlier, hi, Margaret and Leslie and Kevin, what came up earlier was this. I woke up thinking about my mom, and because it's Thanksgiving, I'm not going to be able to see her, things like that. And I know my mom is dwelling in a place because she has dementia. She's only in the present moment. And so when I connect with that awareness, in some way, I'm connecting with my mom. And in some way that is hard to articulate, I'm connecting with everyone and everything, because each and every one of us at our core essence, there's a stillness that we've forgotten. There's a stillness that we emerge from, and all of our actions, whether we can perceive them or not, emerge from an essential stillness. Happy Thanksgiving. And so in this state that I'm in right now, I happen to be in a context at this spiritual center, Unity Columbine Spiritual Center, where there's this sign that says, remember who you are. And in this season, I feel really grateful because I feel like this is a season for me to remember who I am, to remember who other people are, and to be able to articulate things that have been in my spirit ever since I got here, and things that I have just kind of said, okay, learned who not to talk to. That's what I learned in the first 50 years of this life. I learned who not to say stuff to. And I'm finally in a place where I'm around people that I can say stuff to, which is a very interesting. And if I live past the rest of this day, because I still cultivate that consciousness that, hey, this might be the last one. This might be the last video. This might be the last whatever. I'm always mindful of that, and which increases my gratitude for the moments that I'm in. And so from that place, I'm able to be able to stay in gratitude and be of curiosity and wonder. And I actually, for the first time in my life, actually hope that let's stick around longer. I literally never think about like, oh, I hope I live for a long time or whatever the case may be. That's not been a thing that I've ever really practiced, but it would be awesome if I did, because I'm finally in this space where I can talk like how I talk and share what I think in here out here without the concern that it's going to make some other people confused, or they're going to think it's not Christian, which I will debate all day long if I felt like debating people, but I don't. All of those things, I can drop those things away, because my relationships right now are mostly with people who either are agnostic, they're progressive, or they're on a spiritual journey where they are allowing themselves to be in a discovery mode, which I think every human being should be in. As a former fundamentalist, you're supposed to think this thought or else person, which I didn't work that way, but I was raised that way. I'm finally feeling so much gratitude for just not knowing. When we were in staff meeting the other day, we were saying what we were grateful for. I said, I'm grateful for not knowing, because I literally don't. I didn't know I was going to work there. I'm here now, and I don't know what's happening next. So many things are just unfolding, and we're in a world where the truth is none of us know. I'm just hanging out in this knowing or this not knowing. So as I wind down, I want to share a poem with you guys, you folks. And if you get something out of this, I invite you to share with other people. This poem is called Give Me Back My Ignorance. I wrote this when I was in my 20s. I wrote this book called It's All in Me. And I actually called myself No Man back then. I even have a tattoo on my back that says No Man. And the whole concept of No Man was this nothingness, that this couple things that I cultivated were just what I call my superpower, which is my ability to hear and say no, because so many people hate saying no and they hate hearing no. And that is so pervasive in American society. I feel sorry for us. But we can't hear the word no. We can't say the word no. We don't like hearing the word wrong, and we don't like telling people they're wrong. Even though if we were able to do that, we would be in a much better place. So no man, this alter ego, if you will, was the superpower was I could say no and I could tell people no, but also I could like go into the nothingness and sit in the nothingness and be comfortable with the nothingness and then allow whatever action I took to emerge from that nothingness. So I wrote this in my 20s. And this book, Give Me Back My Ignorance, was a way of trying to articulate what I've witnessed in a lot of people, which was how they lose themselves by gaining things in this world, but they lose themselves, which is a Jesus teaching that says those who gain their life will lose it, and those who lose their life will gain it, which is something I'm very intimate with because I understand from my perspective that what he's saying is those of us who feel that we're lacking and we have to get something outside of ourselves will actually lose the reality of who we are. But those of us who let go of the things, the attachments that we have and such like that, will gain the reality of who we are, which is Christed beings that we just don't know we are. So anyway, Give Me Back My Ignorance is the poem. It says, I'm not the man I used to be. I wonder why. I wonder why. What did this knowledge do to me? It's like I died. It's like I died. I remember when beauty was beyond the flesh. I could cry. I could cry. Now I see how ugly I am when looking through my eyes. Give me back my ignorance. Then I wouldn't have a clue. The world is laughing behind my back because I believed that love was true. I wouldn't know that look you give shows how much you hate. Then I could love everyone for who they are and not for what they demonstrate. And legitimately, I used to hang out, and I say used to because I'm shaky now, but I used to hang out in this conscience where I legitimately loved everyone and everything because it was all part of that miracle of the little moment that I was in. So even people that treated me like crap, I was constantly looking for something good in them. I'm telling you the truth. I used to look and say, if somebody bothered me, I would search their whole body and like it could be a person say something like there was one instance where this woman was being rude to me and I was feel myself wanting to like call her names or hate her, but I wasn't going to allow myself. So I started scanning around and I saw she had really nice toenails. And I started focusing on her toenails instead of the way she was being, the way she was acting. I just kept looking at her toenails. And then I just like interrupted her and said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know you're obviously upset with me, but can I just tell you that your toenails are looking pretty awesome? And she was like, what? And then like you could see the whole demeanor change, right? And all it was, and I should do that as a practice. And I just remembered a few days ago because I'm in this thing of like, remember who we are, remember who you are. So I'm thinking of like practices and other things that I could share with people to help us remember. Because if we remember who we are, we have to remember who other people are, even the people that we don't vibe with. And if we remember them and we remember us, then we have to remember the one through whom we are known, the one through whom we exist, whether you call that God or not, or consciousness or whatever you call it. There's by remembering one, you remember everything. And that is also a teaching of Christianity. That's why Jesus was like, everything's wrapped up in love God, love humans, love self. It's like know yourself, know others, know God. They're all connected. So if you know one, you know all. If you love one, you love all. If you love completely, because nothing is separate. That whole separation thing is an illusion. And so I'm feeling increasingly comfortable saying this because I already hang out in this space inside of my life anyway. I just had taken a while to get to communities where it was all right for me to say that and to cultivate that. So here is where I am. A lot of my things that I'm going to be saying in the future are going to be progressively lighter and maybe joyous for the most part, even things that don't seem joyous, because when you're infinitely curious about what's happening, like when my car broke down the other day and I didn't expect it. Now my car, after almost a year of not being able to go in reverse, it finally can go in reverse. Yay. As of yesterday, I have a car that can go in reverse. I don't have to worry about where I park and try to figure out how to navigate to get out. I can go backwards. Now I got to figure out how to pay that credit card bill. But besides that, I'm curious. Who knows how I'm going to do it? But, or if I'm ever going to do it. But whatever happens, I have to say that there's a lot of miracles that are waiting for us. And it is an everyday thing because everything is miracles. Again, like Einstein said, there's two ways of living this life: as if nothing is a miracle or as if everything is. I choose to live as if everything is. And my ministry in this season, if you can call it that, is remembering that all the time, reminding other people the best I can, trying to articulate it. And even when I can't articulate it, being okay because not everything can be explained. So I love y'all. Happy Thanksgiving. Be grateful for nothing in the positive sense. And if you don't know what I mean, go to the beginning of the video. Share this with other people because today, for some of us, we're going to find ourselves in situations where there may be some tension, but look for something beautiful in the person. Look for something that you can say, oh, okay, this is great. This is awesome. Like their toenails look great. Whatever it is, look for it. And also remember that everything comes from nothing and returns to nothing. So everything, and not in a scary way, not in a scary way. And we'll talk more about that in the future. But remember that, because even the person that's annoying you, eventually if you don't hold on to it, it's going to go away just as soon as it came. As soon as they finish saying something that you don't dig, it's going to go back into nothingness. And the only thing that's going to hold it in place is you thinking about it. So I invite you to be mindful of nothing, because it is a big gift that many of us do not take the opportunity to enjoy, and be grateful for the moments that arise. Taste your food today. Hear the voices of the people that you're around, whether you like it, because it's awesome that you can hear if you can hear, because not everybody can. I mean, just all these different things to be grateful for, and they all emerge from nothing. They all return to nothing. So just enjoy them while they're here. All right. Peace. And until next time, when something emerges from nothing, that's when I'll pop up. When it's coming out of nowhere, I'll be now here. Peace.